So introduction to JMS. So let's start by discussing these two questions. What is JMS and what JMS models are available? Okay, so JMS models. First, what is JMS? So the Java messaging service is similar to JDBC. Like we have in the JDBC API, we can use the JDBC API to access different relational databases. We can do essentially the same thing with JMS. What we can do is we can use the JMS API in order to talk to in order to access different enterprise messaging systems, okay, like JBoss messaging, WebSphere MQ, or BEA WebLogic. Okay, so the JMS code is not gonna change if we're using a JBoss messaging system, or if we're using a WebSphere MQ system, or if we're using a BEA WebLogic system. It's still gonna be the same JMS code. Okay, very good. So the second question was what JMS models are available, and essentially we have two models. We have a point-to-point models, so point-to-point queues model, and we have another model which is a publish, subscribe, topics model. So you publish and subscribe to topics. Okay, so we have two models for JMS. And so let's do a quick JMS diagram to talk about the different actors in a JMS application. Okay, so what the different actors, we have a producer, a JMS producer, and what that is, it's essentially a Java application. It's a JMS client that is producing messages, that is sending those messages. Okay, and we can have a consumer, essentially a consumer of messages, and it's essentially another Java application or component of a Java application that is receiving messages through a JMS provider. And what a JMS provider is, it's essentially a messaging system like JBoss messaging or WebSphere MQ messaging or BEA WebLogic. Okay, and another thing to mention is that a JMS client can be both a producer and a consumer, since a Java application can send messages and also receive messages. So it can maybe subscribe to topics to receive messages from those topics, and it can also publish to some other topics. Okay. Okay. So essentially, the combination of all of these interacting with each other, of different JMS clients and one JMS provider, makes up a JMS application. Okay. So that's a JMS diagram. So let's quickly define each one of the actors that we talked to in the diagram. Let me go ahead and define each one of those. Okay. So what is a JMS client? A JMS client is a Java application that is using JMS. What is a JMS provider? And a JMS provider is a messaging system that handles routing and delivery of messages. Okay. And the third thing that I want to talk about here is what is a JMS application. And essentially, a JMS application is a business system that is composed of many JMS clients and usually one JMS provider. Okay? Very good. So, and the remaining two to talk about is what's a producer and what is a consumer. Okay? And the producer is essentially a JMS client that is sending messages, and the consumer is a JMS client that is receiving messages. Okay? And as we said, a JMS client can be both a producer and the consumer of messages at the same time. Okay? Okay. So we mentioned that there are two models. So let's go ahead and talk about the publish subscribe model. What is the JMS publish subscribe model? Okay, it's essentially a one-to-many model, since we would have one publisher that is publishing messages to a topic, and we would have many subscribers that can receive that message that is published by that publisher. And the topic, so what we mean by the topic here is that we would go into if we're using JBoss messaging, or if we're using WebSphere MQ or BA WebLogic or any other messaging system, we would go into the administration of that system, and we would define topics for publishing and for JMS clients to publish message into and receive message from. Okay. So that's the publish subscribe JMS model. It's a one-to-many model. And the second model that we mentioned is a point-to-point JMS model. So what is the point-to-point JMS model? It's essentially we have a sender that is sending messages, and that sender is sending those messages to a queue, and only so we can have many possible receivers, but that message is only gonna be picked up by one of those receivers. So if any one of those receivers pick up the message, all the others are not gonna get that message. So it's a one-to-one model. It's a point-to-point model. Okay, so that's the difference between this model and the publish subscribe model. So the publish subscribe, as we said, it's a one-to-many model, and the point-to-point, it's a one-to-one model. So the message is only going to be consumed by one of the possible receivers, even though we could have many possible receivers. Okay.